Greetings, Bat Family. Welcome to Holy BatCast, brought to you by real fans for real movies. You can find us all over social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast. You'll find us. If you're a fan of the show and you do want to support us, you can do that on Patreon. You don't have to, no pressure, but it's an option if you'd like to do that. And as always, got to give a big thank you to our patrons. You guys are so cool, and I hope you know how much we appreciate you. Y'all just make it so much easier to keep the show rolling, and it means a lot. So thank you to our patrons. If you guys are interested, you can go to patreon.com/holybatcast. We're also part of the Real Fans Podcast Network. All those cool shows are at rf4rm.com. And I am your Bat host, as usual. You can find me on Instagram, Threads, and Letterboxd. It's always just my name, Andy DiGenova. This episode, mostly we're talking penguins, but got a couple other little things I want to chat with some friends about, some stuff that's happening in the DC sphere, but for the most part, we're going to talk about that pilot for the Penguin. And those friends I just mentioned are here and excited to have them back. They were here not that long ago talking about Justice League Mortal, and they're back again. So first of all, Jamie Drewley. Hey, Jamie.
Hey, man. What's going on?
Not much, man. Well into spooky season, well into pumpkin spice season. I think right now I bleed pumpkin, which is fine by me.
It's a glorious time.
It is.
The pumpkin pie Pop-Tarts, recommend.
Recommend. Big fan. Big. We shouldn't go too far down the pumpkin spice snack road, though, because there's some coming up. It's going to be talking some seasonal treats with our other guest, because people enjoyed it so much last year on the Real Fans show.
Excellent.
Yes, and that's my partner in spooky cereal eating. It's Preston Willis. Hey, Preston.
Oh, pardon me. I was just getting my cereal out of the freezer with my hack I talked about last year.
You taught me that, and this past weekend, my sisters were in town. They were visiting me. It was morning. I poured my bowl of cereal. I put it in the freezer. About 10 minutes later, I went back to retrieve it, and my sister said, "What did you put in the freezer?" I said, "My cereal." And she's like, "What?" I'm like, "It's really good. It makes the milk nice and cold." And so now you have made me a believer. I don't know if it makes it crispier or crunchy or anything, but I just love the way it makes the milk ice cold. It just tastes so much better.
All right. I like it. I'm spreading the good word. What can I say?
Yeah,
fellas. Yep. I'm so pumped to be here. I've been so excited about the premiere episode of The Penguin, and I'm excited to talk about it with you guys among some other topics, obviously.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you're both here. Glad we all could make the time this evening. So before we get to The Penguin, the man of the hour, I want to talk about a couple other little things, and we'll start with a little Batman news because it's worth mentioning and it's worth celebrating, because we already know Batman's the best. We know this. We wouldn't have the show if we didn't know this. But sometimes the world agrees with us. Sometimes the world doesn't. But today, the world agrees with us, because tomorrow, as of this recording, Batman receives his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And he is the first superhero to get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So that's happening September 26th. By the time you're listening to this, it's probably already happened. I'm sure there are going to be photos flying around. Can't wait to see them. But a little celebration of the character we all love, and thought it was worth a mention to celebrate how cool that Batman gets to be the first superhero with his very own star.
Just
Jamie?
my utility belt, Spider-Man.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Deserved. Absolutely deserved. I can't believe that it's not happened yet, frankly, but I'm pumped to hear it.
I'm shocked that no other superhero has gotten one yet, because there have been a lot of fictional characters with stars on the Walk of Fame. Like Mickey Mouse has one, and Disneyland has one. I think Donald Duck has one.
Disneyland has a star?
Yeah. It's like right up front of the El Capitan. So there are stars that are not just for actual living people, but hey, Batman's first, as it should be. I do know a certain Superman fan who's a little upset about it.
Must be Thomas J.
And I'm sorry, Thomas J. I love you. I love Superman. I love Big Blue, but Batman got there first. What are you going to do? Sorry about it. But it's exciting.
Thomas and his wife, wonderful human beings, but this whole Superman over Batman thing, I can't abide it. I can't.
Yeah, as we were just talking about before we hit record, nobody's perfect.
That's true.
Well,
almost nobody.
So anyway,
I did that for you, Thomas. I did that just for you.
So anyway, yes, Batman's getting his star. Can't wait to see pictures next time I'm in California. I can't wait to go see it for myself. Makes me happy, and it's very exciting. All right, let's get to some other news about some DC films. So this one just happened a day or two ago. Matthias Schoenaerts has been cast in Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, as the villain Krem of the Yellow Hill. So,
what?
did you not do your homework, Jamie?
No, because I thought we were going to talk about it, and I always want my reactions to be genuine when I hear the news. What the hell is creme of the yellow sun? What does that even mean? That sounds like a cream of wheat product.
He's the villain in the comic.
So I'm assuming you have not read Woman of Tomorrow, Jamie.
I read 2 issues. That was as much as I could get through, to be honest with you.
Well, guess what? I haven't read it either. So I also didn't know what a creme was.
Well, boys, we're 3 for 3.
Okay, great. We're just killing it on this podcast. So, and then here's a question. Does anybody know who Matthias Schoenaerts is?
I feel like I've heard the name before, but I can't place who it is.
So he's known, I tend to see Rust and Bone, which is a film tossed around most with his name. I have not seen it. I actually think it might even be a foreign film, but it seems highly regarded.
Yeah, so I guess that was his big breakout. I also have not seen it. Most recently, he was in the HBO series The Regime with Kate Winslet. And he was also in David O. Russell's Amsterdam, Red Sparrow, The Danish Girl. So he's been in a few other things, but this was kind of fun news because I was like, I don't know the actor and I don't know the character. So yay!
Okay. Amsterdam is what I know him from.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, at least you know that.
Well, I always pull up my IMDb and you scroll down and it's like, you may know them from, and Amsterdam's the only thing I've seen with him in it that I have marked. So.
Well, okay then. So anyway, regardless, even if we're not as well versed in him or the character, what are your thoughts on this casting, Preston?
Well, it's very interesting because it signifies to me, clearly there's a reason that he was cast, and we don't know what that is, but it has to be something good. So I'm going to put my trust in the higher power at DC here. And hey, I'm along for the ride with Supergirl, man. I'm excited for this. And obviously, I look forward to reading the story that it's going to be based on, frankly. But nonetheless, man, hey, bring it on. I'm here for it, even if I don't know a ton about the character or the actor.
All right, Jamie.
I hate the world. I think this is a disservice to the cream of wheat that I love so much, and this casting is terrible.
Okay, that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion.
That's how we react to DC stuff, right? Isn't that the appropriate reaction?
Cheers.
Yeah, pretty much.
No,
this is somehow a betrayal. I don't know why, but I'm sure I'll figure out.
Exactly. No, I don't have any skin in the game for the character or the actor, but as Preston said, there's probably a reason he got the part. I'm not going to lose my mind on a positive or negative front, and I'll watch the movie and I'll see what shakes out of it, and I'll make my judgment at that point.
All right. Well, I mean, let me just go ahead and organize all of my creme memorabilia over here. I've got my creme action figure, got my creme bed sheets, got my creme breakfast cereal. It's terrific. No, I mean, I think we're all at the same page as we're not super familiar with him or the character, but that's okay. He's an up and comer. Nothing wrong with that. Obviously, he did something right in the audition, got the gig. So I support it. I think that's cool. I also should read Woman of Tomorrow. Apparently it is great. People really like it. I just haven't gotten to it. But
man, well, it was one of those stories as well that started selling like crazy once the plans were announced for the movie. And I thought that was so cool. Yeah. I mean, it was selling out in comic book stores all over the place.
That is very cool. So
If it's truly going to be some measure of adaptation of this story, all I'm going to say is this is a really bizarre choice to start Supergirl off with in a cinematic universe.
Just from what I know of the story, I agree with you. It is a very odd choice. Again, it feels like she's going to be introduced in Superman and then she's going to fly off and have this other adventure in her own solo film. But all that aside, here's why I'm excited about this news. Things are ramping up. That's why I'm excited, is that they got a director, they have a star in Supergirl, now they have another actor cast as the villain. It's just going to keep going from there. And so it's nice to see these other DC Studios projects getting traction, moving ahead, starting pre-production. That's exciting as DC fans. This universe is off to the races. And every little bit of news like this gets me excited because I'm like, we're going to get more. And that's cool. This is coming out June 26th of 2026, which is really exciting, just shy of 2 years away now. So it should be ramping up. And I think it's very encouraging that indeed it is.
Yeah, positive momentum. Like, if anything, that's what we want to see right now. So I do want to throw this in for him as an actor as well. I kind of pulled a card from Jamie here, kind of scrolling through his IMDb. Man, he actually played a really like slimy character in this movie called The Drop with Tom Hardy and James Gandolfini, and I totally recognize him from that now. He was really good in that, and I also recommend that movie. So yeah. That goes back about a decade, but nonetheless.
I feel like with those two actors, I should have at least heard of this film, but I have not.
Oh, it's good, man.
Well, all right then. So that's some casting news around DC, but there's some other casting news around DC as well. And that is, it seems, this is still not totally confirmed, but it seems like pretty well a safe bet. It seems like we have our Hal Jordan for Lanterns. So over the past few weeks, there were a lot of rumored names being thrown about for people who may have been offered the role of Hal Jordan, like Josh Brolin, which, for the record, I was totally not for. I really didn't like that idea at all. Even though I love Josh Brolin, I just couldn't see Hal there, and I was like, oh, please no. And then some other names had been thrown around too, some more exciting than others, but it was really interesting because obviously the conversations were happening. And then this week, we get news that none of those names are in final talks, but there is a name in final talks, and that is Kyle Chandler as our older, wiser Hal Jordan for Lanterns. So, Jamie, I know that you've got a lot of vested interest in Hal Jordan, and I am curious to hear what you think on this.
So I'll just start off by saying this. I have no issue with it whatsoever. I had no idea he was as old as he was because he certainly doesn't look it.
Agreed. Yeah.
Whatever he's doing, keep doing it. He's all right. Great actor. I've liked him in everything I've seen him in, which hasn't been a lot, but I've definitely seen him in some stuff. I look at him and I can kind of see, he has that Hal Jordan look about him. So, aesthetically speaking, I wish they were shooting for a younger Hal, but if you're going to introduce the Lanterns that are sequential after him, it makes sense, I guess, that he's going to be, a little more seasoned than, the John Stewart, or, if they eventually introduce a Kyle and a Jessica and Simon and, Guy Gardner. I mean, he's not a spring chicken, obviously. They cast Nathan Fillion. I imagine he's got to be about as old as Kyle Chandler. So, I mean, that's, 6 of one, half dozen of another. But yeah, I don't have any problem with this. I'm kind of left wishing, we had more of a Hal in his prime than a Hal over the hill. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know that's been a lot of the discussion around this choice and around the choices they're making for Hal for the show, but it's not surprising. They pretty much told us that that's what it was going to be, is older mentor Hal working alongside with a younger rookie John Stewart. And I'm sure that casting is coming sooner than later because, again, speaking of ramping up, this also seems to be ramping up, which is awesome.
Yeah. They said, older experience, whatever, I kind of had him pictured around 40-ish.
Well, that's kind of what I was going to say, is older mentor could be anywhere between 40 and 60. And I think that anywhere in there would have been fine, but I think that we're all a little surprised that it's on the higher end of that. But to your point, I didn't realize he was almost 60.
This cat can easily pass for early 40s. I mean, he can definitely
Exactly.
do it.
He is
But,
he's a very youthful 59.
absolutely. And, again, I don't have an issue with this, but I do have to question.
Why are you an ageist, bro? What's with the ageism, man? What's up with that? That ain't cool. That ain't cool.
I question how long this is going to run and what they're going to do with him, because if they're planning on doing this universe and having him involved for 5 to 10 years, I mean, that's getting to be a little stretch, is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Preston, what about you? Where are you on this?
Man, so Kyle Chandler, he may not be like that A-list actor that names like Matthew McConaughey or Josh Brolin are, right? So it may not be as splashy of a casting choice, but when you look on the other side of the coin too, Kyle Chandler like never disappoints, man. Like either on TV, on film, he is insanely consistent, I think, in basically everything that he's in. I think, he can have that perfect amount of seasoned nature to him, yet still kind of have somewhat of that little bit of youthfulness to him, right? I mean, I can't believe he's 59. I'm like you guys. So, listen, again, it may have not been the huge name that we heard kind of floated about, but I have no reason to complain because I've loved everything that this guy's, been in, or if I didn't love the project, he was good in it.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I mean, I definitely agree with you, Jamie, and with a lot of the fans who said I wanted a younger Hal. If it were up to me, I would have gone with more of a 40-year-old Hal. Not up to me. But if you are going to go older, Kyle Chandler, I think, is a really cool choice because even though he's older by the years. As we all said, he doesn't look it, he doesn't feel it, and we were all a little shocked to actually see that was the case. And I agree with you, Preston, is that he is just like a good, solid, likable, and charming actor. And he's always good in everything that he has done. And so when I heard about Josh Brolin, I was like, oh God, don't do that. Please don't do that. I'll still watch, but I don't love it. And then there were a lot of those other names that were pretty A-list being thrown around, some more exciting than others. But like, man, when they threw out Timothy Olyphant, I was like, oh, do that. Please get Timothy Olyphant. That would have been. So if they had announced Timothy Oliphant, it would have been like, holy shit, that's awesome. What a great choice. You guys nailed it.
And he's that old too.
Is he?
Pretty close.
Got to be close, okay. You would think.
But when they announced Kyle Chandler, it isn't that, holy shit, that's amazing. It's more like, oh, that's cool. That works. And so it's not as exciting, but it's a rock solid choice. And I can totally see it. Like once you hear it, you can see it of like, oh yeah, like I can so totally see the Hal in him. And I was afraid with the Brolin rumor that he was going to be a little too gruff, a little too grizzled. I didn't want cable Hal Jordan. I think Kyle Chandler can bring a little more lightness, a little more charm to Hal. And that is, I think, at least that's what I want to see. I can't speak for anyone else, but I assume that's what you guys want to see too. And so, yeah, I was like, you know what? Unexpected, but I'm into it. I like it.
I hate to even bring this up because all this is just speculation until we get official news. Although it does seem, obviously, like you said, Andy, that Kyle Chandler is going to be in this role. There's talk that possibly his deal doesn't include films. I don't know if you guys have seen that kind of floating around. So, yeah, obviously, we can't even really get into that without knowing any context or anything to that. But it's going to be interesting to kind of learn the different facets that these folks are going to be kind of participating in, because it does seem like one big shared thing across all these different mediums. So yeah, we'll see, I guess.
I didn't see that little tidbit that it wouldn't include film appearances. So that's a little surprising.
Yeah. And again,
well, I mean, who knows, right? It kind of feels like the way they're setting this up. And, again, this is, gut speculation. Yeah, this is maybe a passing of the torch show so that John can be the Green Lantern in the Justice League universe for the films, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think, before we move on, like, again, I've seen a lot of conversation about it and people being like, oh, I wanted Hal in his prime, like what you said, Jamie. And I think what I appreciate is them going, listen, we don't want to skip over Hal. But we do want John Stewart, and we don't want to start with Hal in his prime because who knows when we'll get to John Stewart. So I think that they tried to find a way to have their cake and eat it too, of like, why not both? But if it's going to be both, then that means Hal's going to be a little bit older, John will be a little younger, but that way we can do both. And I appreciate that as a strategy as well. That makes sense to me because yeah, if you jump over Hal completely, that's a little disappointing to the Hal fans, but I also understand wanting to get to John Stewart, and this way you don't have to choose.
Well, yeah, I had it in my head when the conversation was happening that Hal was going to be this old, and we're concerned what the future is going to hold. If this is a 10-year universe plan, he's going to be damn near 70 by the time they wrap things up to according to the plan as it's laid out now, as we know from James Gunn. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, the only logical thing is Hal's not going to be there that long. Now that Preston has brought up this snippet about him not having any deals for films, maybe he's not even going to make it out of this series. Is kind of where I'm sitting now.
I don't want to do that either. I don't want to do that either. We shall see. But yeah,
we'll see.
I don't want them to bring him in just to kill him. But I also understand that, they've got to be realistic with who they're going to use and how that's all going to pan out. But also it does make some sense. Let's say, even if he makes it to the end of the series, at least it makes sense to use John then for the larger team ups and keep Hal to the series.
Yeah. True.
We'll know soon enough, I guess.
We will. And who, like I said, I want to be clear, who knows if that's, going to end up being factual, but we shall see in time.
Indeed. Well, again, I like the choice. It was unexpected, but I was like, yeah, cool, great. I like that. Could have been way worse. Certainly could have been a little more exciting, but I think, again, it's a pretty darn solid choice. And much like with Supergirl, my real excitement's like, it's happening. We're moving forward. And that's really cool.
Yep.
Well, as far as things moving forward, aren't we like 60-ish days away from Creature Commandos?
Yeah, that's correct. So
bring that on.
So the universe is almost upon us, guys.
Indeed. Yeah, it's going to be very cool. I can't wait. So coming just in time for Christmas. Nothing says Christmas like Creature Commandos. So speaking of moving forward, we've gotten another show. Another little step forward for DC as well as the Reevesverse. Do we call it the Reevesverse? I don't know. No, it's the Batman epic crime drama, the epic
saga,
crime saga. Yes,
yeah.
The Batman epic crime saga. So we got a new chapter in that because the Penguin has premiered. So we've all watched the first episode, and it is time to discuss the pilot for the Penguin. Penguin was released on HBO and on Max last week. Right now, it's just one episode deep. We had to wait a whole week and a half for the next episode. So, while we wait, we can chat about the first episode. So, 1 hour long pilot starring Colin Farrell back in his full Penguin prosthetics and gear, playing Oz Cobb and trying to rise to power in Gotham now that Falcone is dead. So I think what we shall do is we'll do like we do movies. We'll do spoiler-free thoughts. And then I will give a spoiler warning just in case. My hunch is anybody listening has watched it, so I'm not all that worried about spoilers, but I'm still going to put it out there just in case. So a spoiler-free thoughts to start, and then we'll get into what happened in that first episode. Now, I guess I should also point out or just own up to it. Preston and Jamie were both looking forward to this movie, or not this movie, this show a little more than I was, which is why I wanted them on this episode because, I wanted to hear from the people who were already really looking forward to this. So that being said, Preston, why don't you kick us off with your spoiler-free thoughts of the Penguin?
Well, thank you, man. I'm so excited to talk about it. And before I get into these thoughts, I have a decent amount. So I just want to preface with that, and feel free to butt in at any time, guys, because I'm not trying to make this the Preston show, but I do have some thoughts that I want to get across. So obviously these past couple weeks, I mean, they've been super informative, right? Like in the world of this crime saga that you mentioned, Brady, because we've finally gotten to hear from Matt Reeves, like openly discussing like this project and shed some light on the Batman 2, among other things that are happening. So, things have been so quiet for so long as they kind of made their way through the writing of the script of the Batman 2. Obviously, he and Mattson Tomlin, who I really like and respect, he just had a Terminator animated series drop on Netflix, by the way. But yeah, so to finally hear from all those folks, like in the press junkets and stuff, that's been awesome. But as far as this series go, we are, I guess, obviously a full length, feature film and a pilot into this universe. And I am still genuinely shocked that Colin Farrell is portraying Oz. Like this has been overstated to death. People talk about it all the time, but like I can't not note how actually shocking it still is to me that that is Colin Farrell. So he's doing such a fantastic job. I think one thing this first episode, did really, really well was sort of have this kind of perfect balance of this suspense, this tension, and just this great character development. We meet a few new faces, obviously, in this 1 hour here, and I was just sold on all these folks. Obviously, my head goes straight to Sophia Falcone. I mean, who is just portrayed so brilliantly. Like she just brings this chilling vibe, man. And guys, I know you had to notice this, but she has this like smile to her that just kind of screams like, "I'm a maniac. I'm going to kill you." And I respect that smile. So well done on her part. But I'm loving what we're getting from like the young Victor here. Like I'm very curious where this story's going. Love this guy's performance though. Like you can tell he and Oz, like, they got some things in common, whether that's like maybe a potential disability of some sort, or they both kind of came up rough. Obviously, I feel like we're going to learn a lot more about that as we continue. But um, typically I will be the first to admit I am just the worst when it comes to watching series, keeping up with shows and stuff. But so far, all in on the Penguin. It does hurt, I will say, but I'm thankful for the weekly release schedule. I'm curious you guys' thoughts on that because I just, excuse me, I really think we're able to really build a lot of conversation, anticipation, and it has a different feel to it, when you have every episode right there you can just kind of binge through. So man, super happy with this first episode. Obviously it feels the same as the movie to me, the way it's shot. Thank goodness we get some of those same score elements because I love that so much from the first film. And like we get a DC series on HBO. Like I think that in and of itself is so cool because of the quality that we know HBO delivers on everything they do. So, if you can't tell, I really liked the first episode. There we go.
Excellent. Well, I should first note it was written by Lauren LaFranc, who it seems like is also the showrunner, directed by
Yes.
Craig Zobel. And I will agree with you. I think that the weekly release schedule, I'm totally fine with that because I don't have time to binge 8 hours of anything these days. So I like spacing it out anyway. Like we talked about with Batman Cape Crusaders, I like being able to take my time and savor it because, otherwise you watch it all in a day or two and you're like, well, and that was fun. On to the next thing. So
Yeah.
I like the restraint with the weekly release. Jamie, what about you? Your spoiler free thoughts on the Penguin?
Okay, so you guys heard me mention I'm a huge George Miller fan. I think the guy's an absolute talent. So I was a little off balance, and was I going to be into singing and dancing penguins? But I really think he did a fine job in directing this. It's what are you laughing
Oh,
at?
Jamie.
Jamie understood the assignment.
Did I do the wrong thing?
I no, I
Son
think
of a
I
bitch.
think you watched the right thing.
All right. So this must have to do with the ones that are always trying to escape from the zoo, then, right?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Of
All right.
Madagascar.
Yeah. So Kowalski, he's a pretty funny guy. I can
Oh,
dig on him, but
love that guy.
no, seriously. I found a lot of things to like. I enjoyed the show. I mean, one of my biggest highlights, probably my biggest overall highlight from the Batman, was Colin Farrell and his portrayal of Oswald Cobblepot. Uh, so that for that reason, I'm a big Colin Farrell fan. I've made it publicly known. I think the guy is a massive talent. I think he's a great actor. I enjoy him in pretty much anything I watch him in, even if I don't particularly care overall for the project. I usually enjoy him because he always seems to give a really good performance. Sometimes he makes some choices people don't think are, what they would like. And, I can respect that. It's not like I don't have those opinions about things, but, for me, I always enjoy Colin Farrell. I think the guy is just an amazing actor. I really liked what I saw from the character work in this. As Preston said, and we've talked multiple times, HBO is known for their production quality, and this is no exception to that. The character work in the HBO shows, Sopranos, Game of Thrones, the big powerhouses that we talk about, even the lesser talked about ones that I think deserve more recognition, like Boardwalk Empire, is all centered on the character work. And this show doesn't seem to be any exception to that. I suppose I'll just get my biggest criticism out of the way. And that is, if you're looking for a show that's, Batman related, and we knew this going in. We knew Batman wasn't going to show up in several episodes, or maybe he's not going to show up at all. We knew that going in. That's not the story they're telling, but it just feels, other than the news recapping what happened with the explosions and the flooding of Gotham, it feels to me so far removed from anything to do with Batman. And I'm going to continue watching it. I'm going to see how everything ties in. I'm going to enjoy Colin Farrell's performance. I'm going to enjoy the character work. Sophia is she seemed to be the hype coming into this. Like when the reviews started dropping, people were talking about, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the actress's name. Shame on me.
Kristen Milioti.
Okay.
Yeah,
She is tremendous. Preston mentioned the smile. I'm going to go ahead and add to that, because that's one of the things I was going to mention. Her eyes and the way that her eyes move and look and how wide she keeps them. And I can't tell if any of this is just naturally the way she looks or if she's just putting that in for performance, but either way, it is working. Whatever they're doing with her.
When she blinks, when she says rehabilitated, I've been rehabilitated, and she does this thing with her eyes, it's so good.
Yes. And it's I won't say it's subtle, but I mean, it's almost understated. It's only because I was so focused on her that I even caught those things. But, she's turning in a performance that I think is equal to Colin Farrell as Oz. The kid, Victor, I think he's doing a great job keeping up with what he's working with on the screen. Obviously, his character is not as big of a focal point as, these two mains that we're going to be dealing with in the show. It just, I don't know. As a crime drama, I feel like this show is off to a banger of a start. As a Batman adjacent show, I feel, frankly, slightly let down. And again, I know I shouldn't have expected any real involvement, but damn it, at least at some point you'd think Oz would have mentioned something about Batman after him having encounters with him, 3 times in the movie? Maybe 4? You'd think something about Batman would have came out of his mouth, but it feels like Batman is the furthest thing from his mind. Mm. And again, I know it's not the story they're telling, but a part of me just can't help but be a little bit let down in that respect.
And I'm so sorry. Go ahead, Jamie.
No, go ahead. I was just going to tack on a friend of mine, Kareem Gomez, over in the Real Fans groups. He dropped a meme in one of the groups, and I read it, and I snickered, and then I watched the show last night, and I'm like, it was spot on. And it was basically a guy doing a boardroom pitch, and it said, so it's Tony Soprano as a penguin. And guys, this is literally what this show is. And I'm not saying they're ripping stuff off, and I'm not saying Colin's trying to do James Gandolfini, but I mean, if you don't make those connections there, I don't know what to say, because he kind of looks like him, he kind of sounds like him. It really feels Sopranos-esque, which, in most respects is a pretty good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to pick up on one thing you mentioned. I thought it was such a good point about how you're talking about this to be a character-driven series. I think now whether or not you go with it, obviously that's up to personal taste. I can't speak for anybody, but I think the quicker you kind of realize and accept that, this isn't a quote unquote comic book series, but it is a character driven series. I think if you're willing to accept that and go with it, you'll have a great time because, in my opinion, like I said, this first episode did such a good job of setting things into motion, and I'm really interested where we're going. But yeah, Jamie, I mean, you're not wrong on any of those points, obviously.
Hang on, I'm going to get my popcorn because I have no idea what Andy thinks of this show.
I'm curious. I know.
I'm pleading the fifth, and you guys continue chatting. I'm just going to be back here. I'm back here eating my own popcorn. I mean, honestly, you guys brought up pretty much everything that I have to say or that I think, because I don't disagree with anything that either of you said. Where it lands is I thought it was all right. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It was okay. It kept my interest. And I think that what I loved about it is something that you both mentioned, and that's Colin Farrell and Christy Milioti. They are fantastic, and they are so much fun to watch. They're fun to watch separate, but they're even more fun to watch together. We expected that from Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell's been a talent for over 20 years now. We know he's great. We already knew what he was bringing to the table. He is consistent. It's like he walked right off the set of The Batman and right onto this show, didn't miss a beat. So we knew he was going to be awesome. That trailer, when she says that line about coming out of Arkham and being rehabilitated, Kristen Milioti as Sophia Falcone, I was like, oh shit. I'm scared of her from just a few seconds in the trailer.
Yeah.
And I know her as the cute and charming mother from How I Met Your Mother. And to see her do something so different and really show her range and go the other, and I know it's been a while since that show ended, but regardless, to see her do this and go toe to toe, no pun intended, because there's some really gross toes in this movie, in this show, go toe to toe with Colin Farrell and just own the screen right alongside him is a huge accomplishment and should not be understated. She's terrific. She's terrifying. And yeah, like she is the co-star of this show, and she'll be damned if she's going to get overshadowed by the Penguin, because she's not. So they, I think, are just awesome, and I love watching them. As for the rest of the show, I thought, it was certainly interesting. I'm not super into the Victor situation. I've said this about other movies in the past where I'm not a fan of when they're like, hey, so this badass character is going to babysit a kid. And he's not a kid, but it's kind of the same dynamic where I'm like, oh, okay, so we have to see the Penguin now be a mentor to the underprivileged homeless youth. Like, it just feels like a little bit of it's a trope I'm just not a fan of. And I was like, no, like, you're really going to do that for this show? His rise to power is also about mentoring a kid. I'm not super into that. There's a lot of great people in it. I also thought that the majority of this first episode was just Colin Farrell monologuing to someone sitting across from him. Almost every scene is just another Colin Farrell monologue as his scene partner just sits across the table and listens.
To be fair, that was me in my living room, just staring just at the screen, like captivated. So, hey, I can't say anything. So,
and again, he's great. So it's fun to watch him talk, but I hope you like watching him talk, because that's what you're going to do for an hour. And so I was like, is anything going to happen? And so I'm interested to see where it goes. But yeah, it's not, I mean, I already don't love the world. So this world for, this Batman, like, I'm already coming in at a disadvantage, and to watch it and go, you know what? It was all right. I think that's okay. But my biggest issue with it is what you said, Jamie. And I didn't know if I was surprised you said it, but here's the thing. Take this show. Change the name of the city to New York City. Change Oz's name to, I don't know, Harry. Change nothing else. Don't change a line of dialogue. Don't change a storyline. And show this show to someone with the names changed. You would never go, oh, this is based on the Penguin.
Yeah. And what's really interesting with that, and that's what makes this so kind of complicated, is that is literally Matt Reeves's point. Like that's what he wants to accomplish with this. He wants it so grounded. And just hearing everything he's had to say in these press junkets and stuff. I mean, what you just said, that is kind of what he wants to accomplish with this. And so, it's gonna work for some, and obviously it's not gonna quite work as well with others.
Yeah. So, I mean, it goes to what Jamie is saying. Like, if you want anything that in any way resembles or feels like a Batman world, and I'm not talking about Batman himself, I'm just saying that world. If you want anything that feels like that world, it ain't this show. It feels to me like the TV equivalent of Todd Phillips's Joker, where Todd Phillips was like, well, I want to do like this character study about mental illness, but nobody wants to see a movie like that. So I'm going to call it Joker so people will care. This feels like Matt Reeves and company were like, well, we want to do a mob show, but nobody wants a new mob show. So let's call it the Penguin and then we can do our mob show. But the only thing that makes it the Penguin is the fact that they call him Oz and that they call the city Gotham.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, So seems like we're kind of across the board on it. I mean, none of us hated it. Yeah. I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. I was like, oh yeah, it's okay. And again, watching them was fun. And so, I will keep watching it. It's still a show called The Penguin. So, hey, their strategy worked. But where like Preston, obviously you seem the most enthusiastic about it, but that makes sense. You also were the most enthusiastic about the film.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Jamie's a little more in the middle on the film and seems like he's a little more in the middle on the show. And I'm the least impressed with the movie. So I'm also the least impressed with the show. So, hey, at least it tracks, right?
Yeah, it as it should, because like I said, I mean, this feels like the movie, very much so.
So, all right, well, let's get over the spoiler wall just in case there were specific things y'all did want to discuss. So spoilers are fair game. If you haven't watched The Penguin, it's on Max. You still got a few days before they drop episode number 2. But again, I'm sure you watched it. But just to be safe, spoilers are going to happen in 3, 2, 1.
All right, I got a positive.
Great.
Let's start with a positive here. It's a little thing, but it may grow into a bigger thing as we continue, because clearly they cast the guy for a reason. Somebody we all love, the three of us love, that I totally forgot about was Mark Strong being recast as Carmine Falcone. I totally forgot about that. So even though we don't see anything other than an image of him in this first episode, I was pumped thinking, okay, we might get some interesting flashback stuff. And, hey, I'm pro Mark Strong.
Yeah, here's the thing. I didn't realize until the week this came out that that's who he was playing. Yeah, I remember the casting news that he was going to be in it, but it was a surprise to me that he was recast as Falcone. And I was like, oh, so, I mean, they're going to have to do flashbacks because otherwise why do you hire Mark Strong? You could just use a photo from the movie. But exactly. Yeah, I think that's interesting, and it'll be really interesting to see his take.
Yeah.
Well, I'll also start with another positive because I think it was probably my favorite part, and it's frankly the inciting incident for what I assume the entire series is, him sitting down with Alberto Falcone and trying to play him and try to buddy up to him and, flatter him. And the scene between the two of them, that was really fun. And then when Alberto just starts laughing at him, and because the whole time I was like, either one of them could kill the other one at any point in this conversation. And then when that happens and he laughs at Oz and Oz is like, forget it. I was like, oh shit. And I think that is a great launching point for then what
Yes.
everything that comes after. Because it was one of those things where I was kind of waiting for it, I'll be honest. But then when it happens, you're like, well, of course, yeah. And then you realize, oh, wait, Oz isn't that high ranking. He can't just get away with this. And now he's in some deep shit because he couldn't control himself.
And I also love that wasn't his plan from the start.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just kind of descended into that. And like you said, that is the launching point for where the series is going to go. I thought that was brilliant as well. And even though we got it in the trailer, and even though it is a monologue, you are correct, Andy. I love that speech that he gives about that kind of beloved mobster in his community. I think that is just great.
So
To be fair, I like Colin Farrell giving monologues. I just don't need
sure.
I just don't need a half dozen per episode. That's all.
No, I totally get it. Totally.
well, he fascinates me. So if you want to make each episode 2 hours and it's just that, I'm cool with it. But for me, the brilliance of that particular scene is you've now set up the entire premise of this series, at least as far as my perspective, in that this friggin' guy can talk his way out of anything or weasel his way out of anything. And whether or not we're talking about that being a comics accurate Penguin trait or anything, as far as the way that they're presenting him in this show, he is a little bit of a schmooze to people that are above him, and he just knows how to work a room. You know what I'm saying? He knows how to talk to people to eventually get what he wants from them. And for me, that's the brilliance of this, in that he couldn't do it with the words, so he did it with the gun, with the case of Alberto. But now he's in a big problem, and you can just see the gears turning in his head. Like, he's dealing with the disposal, and then he has to deal with the kids that are jacking his car. Anybody else have a Jason Todd flashback when that was going on, by the way? Anyway, you can just see the gears turning in his head of, how am I going to get out of this? Or what am I going to say? Or what am I going to do to take this next step? And then he gets in the room with the guys talking about the drug thing elevating to a new level or a new product. And that was Alberto's plan. And the genius of that to me was he said that with Sophia standing behind him, and she knew about the plan, and she wants to know how he knows about the plan. And without missing a beat, without a blink, without hardly a nervous twitch, he gives her that response when they're having that meal, and how we were planning about this, and I was involved from the start. He thinks so quickly on his feet, and his reactions and the way that he talks to people, the way he manipulates, God, what's his name? Sal Maroni, which is Clancy Brown, who we all love, Clancy Brown, of course. The way he's talking to him in prison, it's like, he's just doing it for his own gain, even though that's not how he's presenting it. And it just so seamlessly and perfectly works. The way that he talks to everybody always has to do with how he's going to advance himself. And I think that's the brilliance of the show to this point, is his, obviously the show's about his rise to power in Gotham. We know that. And just in this first episode, seeing how he's twisting everybody around to get what he wants, I think it's wonderful. I think it's very well done, very good writing, excellent character work. So big credit for that.
Well, and your point about him with Sophia while they're having that meal, I also, you do love moments like that where it's like, oh, she's got you. How are you going to get out of it? And he finds just the right way. And I think that she even says that, like, towards the end when he's naked in the chairs, like, there's no talking your way out of this one. You've been had. And then there's another point, and I think maybe he even says it to Victor, and maybe that's why Victor exists, is just so, instead of an inner monologue, he's monologuing to Victor, and we get to hear. But where he says something like, they want to feel big, so I make myself small.
Yeah.
Something like that, right? Which I thought was actually a really good point, because it's true. He's telling Alberto how great he is and how he's going to rule it. He's going to be better than his father. He's doing the same thing with Sophia. And his strategy is like, make them feel like they're superior to me so I can kind of play the game back here when they're not paying attention.
And
Yeah.
man, I love him like with that Alberto scene, like, kind of twisting his arm to take drugs and obviously get under the influence so he can take advantage of that. Like that's just that's just dirty, man.
Well, and then even using that when Alberto goes missing to Sophia, of like, well, he's he's on
Surprise.
another bender, like
That's
he's on
right.
another bender. Your brother's a junkie. It's okay, we love him, but it happens. It's fine, like, and just sort of using those little bits of info he has to kind of position himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he
And
is oh, go ahead, Jamie.
no, say what you're going to say because I'm going to shift the conversation here in a second.
Well, and you can just tell. I mean, this guy is a twisted SOB. I mean, we're obviously going to, see him take this younger guy under his wing, and I'm sure, look decent. But like, man, that laugh after he pulls the trigger, and and then eventually kind of thinks about it for a second. Like, yeah, there's some stuff going on in there, and I feel like we're only going to see more of that, and it's probably going to get darker as we go on.
Yeah, definitely. So again, and to the character of Oz himself and the brilliance of how he's doing it. I mean, he's 2 to 3 steps ahead of everybody. And that, she mentioned you're not going to be able to talk your way out of this. And I cannot tell you guys, and this is probably, if I'm getting ahead of myself, sorry, but this is probably my favorite part of the episode, in that they've got him in the chair, stripped naked. They're torturing him in a very nasty sort of way, I might add. And he knew before he ever got to that point, he wasn't going to be able to talk his way out of it. So he had to set up something else entirely. He's just thinking so far ahead of everybody else. Now he's got himself kind of off the hook with it, right? With the way that this episode kind of ends. And,
Yeah.
they go outside to see what all the ruckus was about. And Victor helped him out in the way that he needed to help him out. And he's sitting in that chair, cut up on that armpit area. And he's laughing because he knows it worked out exactly the way he wanted it to. And I thought that was just perfect.
Mm-hmm. He's ahead of the curve. Yes, yes, he is. Listen, we need to talk the really important things, like 2 pickles on a burger when you order extra pickles. What is this? What is this blasphemy?
Yeah, food was very important in this. He was there's the sandwich and the Slurpees and everything. The important thing is that, the penguin's hungry.
Well, first things first, it's a travesty he didn't order a fish sandwich, but that's beside the point.
There we go. We could have at least got that. Come on.
Well, and so forgive me, it's been a minute since I've seen the movie, but like, did they shut down the Iceberg Lounge in the movie, or is it just because it was flooded? Maybe that's why. It's just because it was flooded. Because like the whole thing starts out with him essentially going through what's left of the Iceberg Lounge, and I was like, God, am I forgetting something? But yeah, that must have been it.
And, I know I get to the point where in these conversations where I'm jumping all over the place, but I'm just hitting points that I wanted to make sure we touched on. The thing where he goes to his mother's house with Victor, and he's dealing with his mother's, condition, whether it be dementia, early onset dementia, whatever. And, the conversation that he has with his mother, and I, again, shame on me for not knowing the actress's name, but I thought she did a really nice job in that part of reminding him who he was and who she raised him to be. And, dealing with the family thing and that dynamic there, I thought was really nice.
Well, so that was Deirdre O'Connell, and yeah, that was the other piece that also gave me Joker flashbacks from the Todd Phillips movie. Like the scenes with his mother, it brought me back to like Joaquin Phoenix with his mother in that movie. And then a lot of folks have said it's also very reminiscent of The Sopranos. But what was interesting about that scene is he went there ready to run, ready to get her out of town and run, because he thought he wasn't getting out of it. And it was only because she said, no, you're this close, you don't back off, you go harder, that he changed his plans, which I thought was interesting, that like, he was ready. He didn't think he had a plan until she forced him to come up with one.
So I would probably vehemently disagree with the Sopranos comparison in their relationship, because to the best of my recollection, and both times I watched The Sopranos, Tony friggin' hated his mother.
Yeah, there was a definitely butting heads relationship there, no doubt about that.
I never watched The Sopranos, so I just have to take people's word for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just know I've seen a lot of comparisons, not just with the show, but especially with like,
Well, I mean,
the mother aspect.
it's a mafia crime drama, so if you're gonna come out here swinging for the fences, you're gonna get compared to the best, right? Just like
Yeah.
every mafia movie is gonna get compared to The Godfather and Goodfellas, right? That's the benchmark. That's what everybody wants to see you get to or excel from. So yeah, I guess the comparisons are just going to be natural, even if I don't agree with them.
Yeah, very very different characterizations and relationships, but are they both kind of mobby crime type shows with a mother son relationship? Yes, but that I don't know. That's where I sit on it.
Now, if a bald guy with glasses shows up claiming to be Tony or Oz's uncle in the next episode, now we got to have a whole different conversation.
I will say, for being someone who's ahead of everyone else, it was pretty stupid of him to try to spy on Sophia in his big, bright purple car.
Oh yeah,
that was, I think, a lapse in judgment for old Oz Cobb.
His purple Maserati.
I was like, you think nobody's going to notice you over there? Come on.
And she even made the comment. I can't remember if it was before or afterward. I think it was after, because she had him in the chair, and she's like, if you're going to drive a purple car, it's going to be very conspicuous to everybody around you, and people are going to remember it. So. But as far as him doing that, I got a huge laugh for some reason out of the fact that when he was running away and kind of got caught by the FEMA setup that they had.
Yep.
And he opens the door and disappears, and they think he's run into the crowd, and he's actually in the trunk of the car. For some reason, as simple as that is, I really enjoyed that.
Dude, yeah, that drew a pop for me as well. I definitely laughed at that moment where he's just rising out of his trunk. That was funny.
And best use of an air freshener that I've seen in quite some time.
Oh my God. Good point. I loved when he brought the damn air freshener up. He's like, you like that scent? Smells good. And then ends up stabbing the guy with it. That was cool.
And crickets from Florida.
Yeah, Bueller.
Sure. What do you want me to say? I don't know.
But you ordered that air freshener set on Amazon. That's what we want.
Yeah. I did. I want to smell just like Oz Cobb.
All right.
Because my feet look just like his.
Oh my God, his feet. Holy moly.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not one of those people that, some people out there, they have a weird thing about feet. Some people on the plus, some people on the minus. Like, I literally know people that never, ever, ever want to see an unshoed or unsocked foot, ever. They just can't stand it. Like, I know a girl that went to school with my wife that cannot watch the Lord of the Rings movies because of the Hobbit's feet.
Oh my God.
So I can only begin to imagine what her reaction to this would have been, because, man, it freaked me out a little bit, and I don't have any of those hang-ups.
So nasty. Anybody who had a foot fetish is having second thoughts right about now.
It was like the foot equivalent to Scary Movie 2.
Yeah.
I just needed that foot to be in some mashed potatoes.
My germs.
And I think a pretty good use of a school bus since The Dark Knight.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh God. Yeah. That took me a second.
Isn't that how that drag out fight ended, with the dude ending up in the middle of the street and the school bus coming careening through?
That's right. And then I love Oz just waving at the kids like, hey, getting in his purple car.
Crickets from Florida. I don't know. I'm sitting here trying to think about stuff, and usually when I'm quiet, Andy picks it up and runs. And right now, you can just tell he's like, I've said what I need to say about this show, guys. Yeah. Come on.
Pretty much. I've said my piece. I don't really have much else to say, so that's why you guys are here.
I do have, believe it or not, I'll give my negative of the episode, and it's the dumbest, smallest thing. But my God, what was up with that terrible green screen at the beginning when the new mayor-elect is talking?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh my God, guys, could we not have done something else there? Again, a very small, 5 to 10 second thing, but it definitely stood out oddly.
Yeah, I did appreciate the little news recap for anybody
Yeah.
who hasn't watched the movie in a minute. I appreciated that, but yeah, you're right. It was like they had her for like 15 minutes, and they're like, just go in
Yes.
front of the blue screen, say this, we'll figure it out later. It'll be
That's it.
fine. Yeah, I think it's just footage of the movie behind her. I think I saw Batman with a flare back there. I don't know.
Yeah, I will say I wish we could have seen him on that roof because he is mentioned obviously and we know that moment, but we don't, we get a super wide shot so we don't get any specifics.
Yeah,
Oh,
he got a name drop, and that was it.
oh, gentlemen, I'm sorry, I forgot. I thought maybe that scene that I mentioned before was my favorite thing in the episode, but that's not true. My favorite thing in this episode, and I actually want to go back and rewatch the beginning to see if there was something else I missed. The little weather thing that was scrolling along the bottom of the news. Anybody pay attention to that?
Yes, I saw a few things actually. I feel like, but you go
Because
ahead because
only one caught my attention, and I had to pause it and look at my wife and quote the entire scene for her because she had no idea what I was talking about when I just said
oh,
it.
what was that?
Otisburg.
Oh, was it in there?
Yes, Otisburg was on the weather report thing for the high and low temperature for the next day.
Oh, that's fun. There were a couple other cool Easter eggs. Did you see Burgess jewelry?
I did, yes.
Oh,
So
I
that
didn't
was
see
fun.
that.
Yeah, for Burgess Meredith. And then they also had Danny's Roofing Corp after Danny DeVito. So nice little nods
Oh.
to previous Penguins.
One of the things I saw, and I don't remember specifically where this was, but I thought it was also a news related tidbit was I saw literally just the text that read Gotham Knights. So I don't know if they were indicating that was some type of sports team or something, but yeah, I did see that.
Oh, I didn't see it in the episode, but it's in the trivia at IMDb. So yeah, I
Oh,
guess that
okay.
was in there somewhere.
So I was watching that weather thing down there, and I was expecting to see something like maybe Bloodhaven or
Yeah.
Burnside or something like that. I fully expected to see something like that, but then Otisburg rolled by, and I was like, hell yes, let's do it. I don't know. I got a huge kick out of that.
All right, so how do you feel about Oz Cobb?
Jamie, you go ahead. That's a good question.
Are we talking the name or the
The
character?
name. The name.
I mean, obviously, it's I'm kind of torn because on one side of it, I get that not everybody would call him Oswald Cobblepot or Cobblepot or anything like that. People just genuinely shorten names down when they know somebody or when they're addressing them, and you just get nicknames. So I mean, naturally speaking, it makes sense, but to play devil's advocate to that perspective, it really feels like they're trying to distance themselves even more from a comic book universe.
I'll just speak for myself here. You know, unsurprisingly, based on my opinions of the show, just kind of generally here, it doesn't bother me. Like I totally understand all aspects of this. At the end of the day, I certainly don't think it's like a make or break situation. Either way you feel about it, uh, but I just don't even really think about it that much, to be honest with you. And like you said, Jamie, I mean, thinking about it from the other perspective, would it be really that hard to call him by the actual freaking name? No, it wouldn't. Should they? Probably. But I also don't care, and it doesn't bother me one way or the other, to be honest.
So I guess in thinking about it right now, since the question's been posed, if it were up to me, and Matt Reeves and these people do not pay me for my opinion, this is just my own take. So,
I pay
Yes.
you for it, so go
well,
ahead.
fair
Right.
point. So, if it were up to me, I would have people like his mother or his very close friends address him as Oz. I would have all of his coworkers, if you will, address him as Penguin.
Hmm.
The word penguin is never uttered in the
No, it's
penguin.
not.
No.
And it was barely uttered in the movie.
Yeah.
But you see my point. I mean, they would use that almost as a degrading thing because clearly he doesn't have a tremendous amount of respect from like Alberto or Sophia or the two guys who were in the room when Sophia walked in or Sal Maroni. I feel like any of those people would call him Penguin just because they think they're getting under his skin by doing it.
I cannot, and this is to be seen, but I cannot help but feel like that's coming. I don't know. Like I
It'll
just,
probably be the very last moment of the very last episode.
and then he
And then
literally
it'll
kills the
smash cut
person.
to the title that says the Penguin.
I see something bad happening with that because this is. I totally don't mean to get away from your point, Jamie, but I do have a question. And we obviously, I think he had 6 scenes in the film, so we didn't get a ton of him, obviously. But I feel like his walk is much more pronounced in this episode, and maybe we just didn't get to see him walk a lot in the film. But that was certainly a very noticeable thing, and I wonder if somebody that's disrespecting him is going to call him out on that disability at some point and refer to him as that. I'm going to be curious.
I think you're right. I was actually surprised to see him hobbling along like that too. I don't remember that from the movie, but again, maybe he
Yeah.
just didn't walk a lot.
He was definitely doing it in the movie, but I definitely believe in so far in the show it's been more pronounced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's a good point. Like that may be where this is going is, they start using that name and it's another thing that starts to lead him down a road of getting revenge and taking out the people who doubt him and et cetera, et cetera. But
Sure.
yeah, it's just interesting. As for the OzCop thing, what's funny is that came out a few days before the episode, like, oh, they changed his name to OzCobb. It's not Cobblepot. And honestly, because of the Edward Nashton thing, I was like, yeah, it figures. I did have a strong feeling because I was like, yeah, that tracks with.
Wait,
with
so his
everything
name
that's
is actually Cobb? It's not Cobblepot?
yes.
No.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
that's-
OzCobb.
I did not catch that. My bad.
Yeah. So, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. So I didn't really think twice about it because it made. I don't want to say it made sense. It's just it makes sense for Matt Reeves's fear of doing anything that in any way resembles a comic book. But
I'm being quiet, but it's not because I don't agree with you.
but it's funny because there are other people who are far bigger Reeves fans than I who are angrier about the OzCop thing. And again, to me, I'm like, yeah, I saw the movie. I'm not surprised by this. So again, I just kind of like brushed it off. I'm like, yeah, what's one more thing? But again, it's like, why? Like, why?
Sure.
I
get that. Yeah.
Like, why are you so intent on distancing yourself from the source material? Why, like, do you not even like it? Do you not like Batman? Like, what's your deal?
This doesn't justify the name at all because, my God, does the last name Cobblepot exist in real life? I'm sure it does. Chester, or Cobblepot, that wasn't Cobblepot, that was Copperpot. Yeah, I was about to say Copperpot. Yeah. But nonetheless, just in listening, guys, I cannot stress enough to these interviews leading up to this premiere. Like he could not. And he wasn't doing this in a rude or anything like that way. He was doing it in an exciting way. But he could not have been more clear about how grounded he wanted this to be, and ultimately wants this saga, if you will, to be. And he wants any viewer, whether it's the biggest comic book fan or a general, whatever TV watcher, to be able to watch this in every capacity, be able to think this is happening in the real world that we exist in. And so at the end of the day, that's why these changes are there. And I totally get, some are going to go with it and some simply aren't. So, yeah.
I've seen just enough where if I took a shot for every time I read the word grounded, I would have liver poisoning.
You're right. I mean, that's the word. I mean, it's
the buzzword
that they use, that the media use. I mean, that is how this is described 100%. And you're right. I mean, it's overused a lot, but that is the term.
I always thought grease is the word.
No, bird is the word.
Bird is a good word.
Oh, well done.
All right. Well, anything else that happened in the show? favorite moments, things that stood out that we haven't quite touched on yet that you want to make sure that we acknowledge before we move forward?
I
I got
think
a
I've covered
go
most
ahead.
of the major ones I wanted to get across. So
Good, good.
Otisburg.
I have a question.
Sure.
Are you gonna watch the rest of this? Like, are you interested? Are you invested? And that's an honest question. I'm just curious if you're gonna kind of continue down the road of the Penguin.
No, I think that's a totally fair question. And the honest answer is maybe.
Yeah,
Like it's one of those
yeah,
things where it's like I
totally.
liked the first episode well enough that yeah, I'll watch another one, but I didn't love it so much that I'm like counting down the days. I'm not like, oh my God, what's gonna happen next? And frankly, if my kid is born in the next couple weeks, I might lose track and who knows if I'll get back to it. So it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, it was I was invested enough to see what happens next because I am curious. But yeah, it could go either way just depending on how my life changes over the next month or so.
It's
Well,
probably safe to. Oh, go ahead, Jamie.
I was just going to say, if it not for you saying that we had to talk about this on the show, I wasn't even going to start watching it until November. But that wasn't because I didn't want to watch the show. It's because I have so much other shit I need to watch right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Scarathon, y'all. Scarathon.
Right. Yeah.
That's
By the
true,
way,
too.
does this count? Does this count for Scarathon? I think it
After
does.
seeing that foot, I kind of think it does.
You both know it doesn't. Stop it.
We better not give anybody ideas, Jamie. That's fair.
I watched the Godzilla movie for Scarathon one year, and Andy lit me up for it. It was.
I didn't light you
Yes,
up.
you did.
That's too
Yes,
many.
you did.
That's over exaggerating.
Andy,
It was
how
more of
dare
a.
you.
It was more of a really. And if that's lighting you up, so be it. But
I could see the look of utter sarcasm and disappointment on your face as you were typing it. Don't give me that shit.
so is that. I mean, I guess that it's however you define lighting you up, but it just means that you had a guilty conscience and you knew what you were doing.
I was watching a monster movie for Scarathon.
A Godzilla movie. It's okay. Based on this year, dude, you're fine.
That counts as two.
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we give some closing thoughts on the Penguin? After Hours is the name of the pilot. So I'll just go first. I kind of said my piece. It's all right. But I also wasn't chomping at the bit for it because to me, this world is just a little too far away from the world of Batman that I love. But it certainly comes down to personal tastes, and that's why I have Jamie and Preston here. Jamie, what about you? Final thoughts?
So I'm going to continue to watch the show. So far, it's giving me pretty much what I wanted. Colin Farrell as obviously the show's called The Penguin. At some point, he's going to have to be the Penguin.
Are you sure? Is he?
No, because I sounded a little unconvinced as it was even coming out of my own mouth.
You were really thinking.
But again, the performance Colin Farrell is delivering in the part is my primary interest coming in. And now that we kind of have that counterbalance with Sophia in the show, who is delivering every bit the performance that he is, to my surprise, I'm interested to see how these two play off of each other going on and what's going to happen next. So I'm probably not going to watch it on a week-to-week basis because I do have tons of things I need to get done for Scarathon. So come November 1st, I'll probably do some binge catch-up on it. But yes, I'm interested. In for a penny, in for a pound. I'll go on the ride and see where we go.
Great. And then Preston, bring us home.
Nice. Yeah, guys. I mean, hey, my thoughts have been obvious throughout us talking about this. I am, very much anticipating the second episode and really the series as a whole. Again, it's a blessing and a curse, this weekly release schedule, right? I'm really ultimately glad that they went that route. Obviously, that's what HBO does, as we know. But it's going to be tough. Going to be tough for me waiting week by week on this series. So yeah, I'm really excited for what's to come. And as we've heard, obviously this is going to set things into motion for where we're going with the Batman 2. So there's a lot to look forward to, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I totally respect where you're coming from, Andy. Like, and I just appreciate you getting, various opinions from all sides on this, and also being true to yourself and your own opinions. So yeah, I appreciate being here to talk about it.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. I mean,
Yeah,
I
man.
do go out of my way to try and bring on people who, who have differing opinions than me, for better or for worse. So I do what I can. All right. Well, the Penguin is out there. Episode 1's available now. Episode 2 will be coming in just a few days. And if this is your thing, I hope you guys are digging the hell out of it. Enjoy. And yeah, got 7 more episodes to go. So enjoy those. It'll be interesting to see how it all develops. Something else that'll be interesting to see is, what have you guys written to us? So let's check in with you, fine feathered finks. Let's crack open the Wayne Manor mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
What is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger. Says all, Master Wayne.
Just got a few of them here, so let's see what we got. This email here is from Ben Llewellyn. It says, "What a great episode, guys." He's talking about Justice League Mortal. He said, "I had no idea that the Justice League Mortal script was available. Thanks for bringing it to our attention and breaking it down. It's funny that Andy brought up the question of whether we would trade Zack Snyder's Justice League for the George Miller version. I'd asked myself the same question earlier in the episode. Although we can never truly know, I like the odds that this movie would have spawned a DC cinematic universe that would not only have been quality, but more palatable than the Snyderverse. Despite my love for the Zack Snyder Justice League, I think us DC fans would be eating well had this movie set the template for the universe going forward. As Forrest Gump says, that's all I have to say about that." So no questions. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, Ben. Glad you enjoyed our discussion around Justice League Mortal. I enjoyed it. Hope you guys enjoyed it, Jamie and Preston. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, had a blast.
It was good.
I actually like what Ben said there, because I was thinking the same thing. Like, it's no question that George Miller's version would have been more palatable, if you will. But yeah, that's a different reality, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, I don't remember if we talked about it or not, but I really feel like if Mortal would have came out and been a success and spawned a little bit, and then maybe stuff like BVS and Zack Snyder's Justice League happened after the fact, when we already had a more, what's the word I'm looking for? It escapes me because it's late at night and my brain's starting to shut off.
Maybe just kind of an established team.
A more
together.
traditional style, and then you do these other more breakdown takes of characters after the fact. I think people might have accepted Zack Snyder's takes a little better had we gotten more of that first.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I totally understand Ben's point and what you guys are saying, because I don't even disagree. I think it's totally fair. And it, again, is not even a reflection of what we feel about the Snyderverse, because we're all fans of it. I think you are, Preston. I think you're right. You're
God,
on that.
absolutely.
But we also are realistic to the situation that arose because of how divisive those movies were. And so, yeah, it would have been interesting to see the sliding doors moment if this was the Justice League movie we'd gotten first. But no way to know for sure. But at the very least, it was fun to imagine what could have been.
Give us that animated movie. Come on.
I know. I agree. Absolutely. All right. This next email is from Richard Webster. It says, "Hey, Andy and the Batcasters. I loved the episode on Justice League Mortal. I wish we'd gotten to see the movie realized, but I would never trade Zack Snyder's Justice League to get it. Batman Day is just around the corner on Saturday, September 21st, the day before my wife's birthday. Any big plans to celebrate the Dark Knight this year? Maybe break open your new AMC Bat Signal popcorn bucket and watch a Batman flick? For us, just happens to fall on a local Comic-Con weekend, so my wife and I are dressing up in cosplay as Batman and Wonder Woman, and then we'll end the day by watching Justice League Doom. Your Mortal script review inspired me to rewatch it. Also, do you have any life-size busts of Batman in your collection? If not, which ones would you want? I'm assuming the Keaton version. Finally, I heard of this I heard of this animated show called The Batman, and I was wondering if you guys have seen it and would be interested in reviewing it. Yes, that's sarcasm. You guys were doing so well, but then your episode reviews disappeared almost as quickly as Brendan did from the show. I hope you guys get back to reviewing it soon, and hopefully Brendan can find some time to join you guys. But I gotta say, I'm starting to love Preston as a regular guest. Thank you for all the amazing Batman content and for keeping the bat signal lit, Richard. Thanks, Richard.
Behind
And
the curtain, we're actually sending Preston to a voice coach right now to teach him to speak with an Australian accent.
it's right, and then our evil plan will be complete.
I
Anyway,
already have my toilet flushing backwards, so I can check that off the box.
money well spent.
Yeah.
So yeah, Batman Day was last week, and I'll be honest, I didn't really do anything different than what I normally do. This year's Batman Day kind of felt like it flew under the radar, which is sad. Like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you do the Star in Hollywood Walk of Fame on Batman Day? And then,
Ooh.
you know, why not schedule a bunch of things for Batman Day? It just felt like it was, yeah, it just sort of went by this year without much. And my family was in town, so I really didn't do much because I was entertaining them. But maybe you guys are better than me. Jamie, did you celebrate Batman Day?
Hey, when you're about that life, every day is Batman Day.
That's also true.
But no, I didn't do anything special for it.
All right. Well, Preston?
Man, incredibly busy weekend over here, working away, man. But I will say, and this was disappointing. It seemed like, or well, this was a positive. My circumstances were disappointing. It seemed like there were certain theater chains, maybe Cinemark, if I'm not mistaken, who brought back 89, who brought back Forever on the big screen. And I like
And
Regals.
Mask of the Phantasm. Mask of the Phantasm,
Oh,
too.
you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
There was the fella in the Real Fans group who took his son. I loved that photo, man. I thought that was such a cool thing for them to share. But we have Regals here where I am in Kentucky, and I typically I love Regal theaters, but man, they didn't do anything, and so we didn't get any of those screenings. I know some of them were still going on this week, and yeah. So other than doing my normal thing, you know, here at the house, unfortunately, I didn't get to celebrate.
If your Regal is like mine, Preston, they're probably too busy showing some opera thing from Phantom Events than they are doing anything like Batman Day stuff.
That's a fair point.
I will say this. I've mentioned in the past that at daycare, Harley always puts on a cape because she considers...
girl.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she runs
Oh
around
my God, Andy, we didn't talk about this on Penguin. What the hell is wrong with us? The soundtrack.
Oh!
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh, God!
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, big points for that. Actually, it's funny. Brendan even mentioned, he even said something. He goes, Andy, I'm surprised you didn't love it just because they used 9 to 5. I was like, well, it certainly helped it. I'll give you that. So yes, hell yeah.
I can't believe we almost missed that. Oh my Lord.
Thank you for remembering. But anyway, so the other day we go to pick up Harley from daycare and she's wearing her cape and she sees us and she runs up and she goes, hi, mommy, daddy. I like Batman. And it was the best thing in the world. And I wish I'd had it on video. It was so cute. So that's the good stuff you can look forward to, Preston.
Yeah, as someone with a daughter on the way, sir, I beg of you, teach me the ways. That's all I need to know. Hey, before we move on to the next question, first of all, I wanted to say thank you so much for the kind comments. But I also wanted to unveil behind the curtain a little bit because there was a small chance that Brendan was actually going to join us on this episode, and I told Andy, I'm like, dude, I'll bounce out in a minute. Like, I'm self-aware enough to know, like, folks love the true trio here at BatCast. I'm just happy to jump on, when they call me off the bench. So again, thank you for the kind words, but yeah, Brendan, Jamie, Andy, you guys lead the way.
Well, you're always welcome. You have a permanent spot on the bench. But the reason it didn't work out is because we can't have you and Brendan on the same episode because then I have to referee a big fight. And, I know you guys now have beef and I don't want to be a part of that.
Is that true?
Oh, so Brendan has beef with Preston as well as me now. Okay.
Yeah, he has a really hard time playing with others. I don't know. I got to talk to Jess about it.
So you're saying Brendan likes to play with himself, is what you're saying?
Well, that is absolutely true.
That fat mobile lives on.
Anyway, sorry. What was the other question? Oh, any life-size busts of Batman? Preston?
No life-size bus. I need like a couple standees is what I need. I remember almost buying a Ben Affleck standee when BVS was out. This is obviously nowhere near life size, but Andy, I think we actually share the 89 figure of Keaton kind of standing on the what is it, like a cathedral of sorts? I can't remember.
Is it the one on like the globe?
Yes,
where it's like
globe.
the statue holding the globe and he's on top.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have it. It's amazing. That one was from Diamond.
Diamond,
Yeah.
That's right, man. That's a really good, like, affordable figure that you don't feel that guilty about, but it's really nice. So no, I wish I had life size. I would scare the hell out of my wife with them if I had them. That'd be fun.
Jamie?
So I don't have any, but I mean, if I'm being honest, I would like all of them, and I'd set it up like the many-faced gods room in Game of Thrones, and just have all of them all over a room like that. I think that would be pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I would be into that too.
There we go.
Neither do I, but I did pre-order the 89 cowl that I think is coming from McFarlane, I think.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So I did pre-order that. So that one will be here I don't know, whenever it comes out, but it was shockingly affordable. It was like $99 and it's the life-size Keaton cowl. So I was like, I have to.
Now, see, you say $99 is affordable because you don't have the second kid yet.
I'm looking forward to the second kid. I'm not looking forward to the extra expenses of a second kid. Well, I'm glad I pre-ordered it before he was born. Am I right? Anyway, and then as for the Batman reviews, I know, Richard, I'm so sorry. But to be fair, you were literally the only one who seems to want them. Richard's the only one who's ever mentioned it. No one else has ever been like, hey, whatever happened to that?
God bless you, Richard.
Richard, next time we do it, it's just going to be for you. Okay. All right, next email here is from Eddie Bolton that says, hey guys, loving the episodes on Batman Cape Crusader. It's the most excited I've been about new Batman content in a long time, and I'm delighted that you guys are more or less on the same page. It's really fun that the show nods so many characters throughout, and my favorite is Eel O'Brien, aka Plastic Man. I have such a soft spot for the character since I was a kid watching the Ruby Spears animated show. When I got back into superhero content in the mid-2000s, I loved seeing him appear in The Brave and the Bold. It helped that as an Irishman myself, I found out that the character is an Irish immigrant, and we're starved for Irish superheroes. So much so that our biggest broadsheet newspaper has a whole piece on him from last year. My question is, do you remember the old Ruby Spears show? And if so, what are your memories? And if you could put him anywhere in the DCU, where would you like to see him appear? It's been a while since I've written in, so Andy, congrats on the bundle of joy on its way. And Jamie, I hope you're coping well with a quieter household. Here's to the best few months of the year, Eddie. Awesome. Thank you, Eddie. And agreed, best months of the year. Enjoy it. Soak it in. Thank you for the kind words about the little DeGenova on his way. It's going to be here anytime now. So right now we're just waiting. We've reached that part of the pregnancy. We did mention I think it was when me and Brenda did the Cape Crusader episode, we did mention the Eel O'Brien cameo, which I thought was really random, but very cool. But yeah, the Ruby Spears cartoon. Guys, do you remember this? Jamie, do you remember that?
I remember watching it when I was a very young lad, but I have no specific recollection of like happenings or episodes. I just remember thinking it was cool that there was a Plastic Man show.
Yeah. What about you, Preston?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't recall the Plastic Man specifically, but I am all about some 80s Ruby Spears animation. I can tell you that much. So, hey, I'll be happy to check it out. That's for sure.
Yeah, I do remember it, but it's one of those that kind of like when I talked about Ruby Spears Superman not that long ago, what I remember about it is I remember it being on and then always having a hard time finding it again. So I knew that there was this Plastic Man cartoon, but I could never figure out when it was on. And I was always frustrated because I wanted to watch it. But my biggest recollection is that it was a cartoon, but every episode was introduced and closed out by a live action Plastic Man, which was super cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
And so I know that they at least released it on DVD once upon a time. I've got to check and see if it's on iTunes or anything, but I would love to revisit it. I would love to review it on this show because, yeah, I have a little soft spot for Plastic Man too, specifically because of that show.
I was too busy watching Fang Face, I think is the
Yeah,
problem.
well, you got to pick and choose, just the way it is. So thank you, Eddie. And happy fall into the holidays to you as well.
Oh, sorry to ruin it for you, but I don't see Plastic Man on iTunes anymore.
Boo.
Aw.
All right, last email here is from our old pal Jazzy Jules. It says, hey there, Andy and fellow Batcasters. I wanted to chime in on the Caped Crusader series. I personally enjoyed it immensely, and I'm glad that you guys have positive feelings towards it too. Regarding the Harley Quinn situation, I can understand Andy's uncertain feelings, as the name does suit the more zany version that we all know and love. Personally, I like the new costume as it's a bit creepy, and while one of her patients did say the names Harley and Quinn, no one actually refers to her as Harley Quinn. So in my headcanon, the new character is called the Harlequin, which I think suits the new look much better. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thanks as always for the fab pod. Regards, Jazzy Jules. Thanks, Jazzy Jules. Well, before I chime in, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on Harley Quinn in Caped Crusader. I don't know if you listened to me and Brennan's chat about it, but Jamie, I know that you had seen it before I had seen it, and you had even you'd given some vague feelings before I watched it. So
Yeah.
what do you think?
I was really curious to see what you were going to think about it because obviously, Harley Quinn is a character that you and Catherine both hold very fondly, given the fact you named your daughter kind of sort of after her. I really love the new take on the character. Is it traditional? Is it, even borderline recognizable to it in some respects? Not really, but the fact that we've got enough translations of Harley Quinn over the last 32 years, I think a fresh take on it is not an unwelcome thing, at least from my perspective. I really like how she's portrayed both as Harleen Quinzel and as Harley Quinn. So I don't have any issues to really throw down about it. And one more time, just because I want to say it, just in case the people in the cheap seats didn't hear me the last time, I appreciate the fact that this show represents all body types and not everybody felt like a supermodel. So I like the fact that Harley's running a little thick. I mean, I'll be honest.
No,
All right.
my sentiments are very similar to Jamie. And the thing that I just always go back to with this show is I love just the casting choices. Like I loved Jamie Chung as Harley Quinn, and like I can't stop raving about Amish Linklater, as Batman. I thought, what a wild choice when that was announced, and I ended up loving it so much. I mean, Minnie Driver, you can go on and on. So, literally, essentially what Jamie said. Is it different? Yes. Did I like it? Yes. Like it fit right in with this kind of world, and I ran with it.
No, that's cool. And if you go back and listen, I liked it. It's not that I didn't even like it. I just don't know if it counts as Harley Quinn, I think is, where I was.
Sure.
And I think that can be a subjective thing, right? Is like, how much can you change a character before it stops being the same character?
Yeah.
Well, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, sorry, I'm not going down that road tonight.
So I mean, honestly, I like Julian's headcanon. I think it is headcanon, but it's headcanon I like, where if this was a twist on Harley Quinn called the Harlequin, where it is very different, I don't know. I dig that. But again, that is just headcanon. And just again, to be clear, I don't dislike the new Harley Quinn. I still liked it. I enjoyed the episode. I enjoyed the take. I thought it was a very different type of villain, and I appreciated all that about it. So thanks for your thoughts, Julian. I appreciate that. And thanks to everybody who has written in. If you've got something for the Wayne Manor mailbox, you can send that to Holy BatCast at rf4rm.com. gmail.com. But that's where we're going to wrap up this episode because Jamie said his brain is shutting down and I want to get him to bed. So thank you, everybody out there, for listening. And thank you two gentlemen for finding the time tonight to talk Penguins. So, Jamie, thank you as always. If you want to plug anything, this is your chance.
I'm on Letterboxd, dropping some pretty regular ratings and reviews for Scarathon. The real fans groups are pretty alive and well with Scarathon activities right now. And that's more or less the only places I can be found these days, unless you happen to be in a football group involving AFC West teams and seeing me curse the Raiders for their terrible showing this past week.
Okay, fair enough. Preston, thank you as well. It's always a pleasure. And see you. Just when you thought we didn't want to hear you, a listener was like, "No, I like when Preston's on."
Oh, that was very
and
sweet.
By the way, I get those comments not in the mailbox. A lot of people enjoy when you're on the show, so don't sell yourself short.
Well, my mom has a lot of accounts across various social networking platforms.
Preston, I don't know if I ever told you this, but Andy was, I'm pretty sure it was Holy BatCast was like your first interaction with us as far as like podcasting together.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So Andy, he always tells me kind of what the plan is for the upcoming episode. And he's like, hey, I'm going to have Preston on. He's been on, Grim Grinning Host a couple times. I said, is that the dude that talks with like the Southern accent? He's like, yeah. I was like, I freaking love that guy. Hell yes. So, yeah, I was a fan before you ever got on the show, man.
Oh, that's awesome, brother. Well, hey, I'm
were the lone defender of Dawn of the Dead on that episode that I can't get out of my mind.
Yeah.
Like 4 years later or so.
Yeah, I was. That's right. I was on the good side of history. That's what that's called.
Yes,
the good side. The good side of history. Gents, anytime. It is always a pleasure to be had, and especially by you gentlemen. So, hey, if you want to keep up with me, you can do so over on Letterboxd, like Jamie said, at Preston967. Spooky season. What a beautiful time. Let's all just bask in it. All right. So find me over there. And speaking of Grim Grinning Hosts, our buddy Hunter runs that show. We do a show together that we cover Tales from the Crypt. Yes. And you can check that out all over the place, of course. And find us over there because we go episode by episode, horrors from the vault. Be sure to check that out. So yeah, I'm around. What can I say?
Heck yeah. Well, I enjoy me some Horrors from the Vault. I always like to watch this episode first, and then I see where I line up with you guys. Usually pretty close. But I told this to Hunter. The showdown episode, one of the best episodes of the show.
Oh, the showdown. Okay.
Showdown episode, one of my favorites. So good.
Totally respected.
Anyway, I already told you guys where to find me, but thank you as always for joining us on Holy BatCast. Please do follow or subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Also, if you love the show, something else you can do is rate and review us. A 5-star review would go a long way to helping us out. It would also make me feel happy. So I would love that if you could do that. Only takes a second. Doesn't cost a penny, so that would be swell. Again, find the show on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Holy BatCast. If you've got something for the Wayne Manor mailbox, see, not only is your brain shutting down, my mouth is shutting down. It's done. Send anything to the Wayne Manor mailbox at holybatcast@rf4rm.com. Our theme music was created by the talented Gaurav Venkateswar. You can find his work at gvtunes.com. But that will do it for this episode. Thanks for joining us. On behalf of Preston and Jamie, I've been Andy. We'll see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Holy BatCast is not affiliated with Warner Brothers or DC Entertainment. The views and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for.
Copper pot, not cobble pot.
Copper pot. Oh my God.
No,
That's what I said. Boom chat.
I know.
Cobblepot is a bomb ass name, and any character or human being should be lucky to have a cool ass last name like Cobblepot. And to take that name away from a beloved character is not cool, and I won't stand for it.
Jamie.
So what he's done is just insult everybody in the world with the last name Cobb.
Like my wife, whose maiden name was Cobbs.
Oh yeah,
I forgot about that.
Yeah. They were actually the Cobblepots, but when they were at Ellis Island, they cut it down.
I'm texting her right now. Andy just said your name ain't shit.